The Meridian Hotel ballroom glittered like a jewelry box tipped on its side. Crystal chandeliers threw fractured light across 500 guests in tuxedos and gowns that cost more than cars. The annual Harrington Foundation Gala promised philanthropy, but delivered spectacle. Maya Brooks moved between tables with a silver tray balanced on her palm. Her black vest and white shirt marked her as invisible, part of the machinery that kept wealth comfortable. At table 1, Victor Harrington held court. His cobalt blue suit probably cost $6,000. Salt and pepper hair swept back from a face made handsome by confidence and expensive dentistry. He gestured with a wineglass and people leaned in. Maya approached to refill champagne. Her hands were steady despite the 12-hour shift. "Finally," Victor said without looking at her. "I've been waiting 5 minutes." She poured Dom Perignon into crystal flutes. The liquid caught the light. Victor turned then, his eyes sliding over her face with practiced dismissal. He reached for his glass, then jerked his elbow sideways. Red wine erupted across Maya's chest and stomach. The table gasped. Conversations died in concentric circles. "Good God," Victor said loudly. "Can't you people do anything right?" Maya stood frozen, burgundy wine soaking through white fabric. The stain spread like blood. "I'm so sorry, sir." Let you what? Ruin my evening further?" Victor's voice carried across the ballroom. "This is a $5,000 a plate event, and they send us this." Laughter rippled through nearby tables. Not kind laughter. The knowing chuckles of people watching someone else get crushed. Maya's throat closed. She grabbed napkins with shaking hands and began dabbing at the wine pooling on the tablecloth. Her eyes burned, but she wouldn't cry. Not here. Victor leaned back in his chair, smirking at his table mates. "You'd think for what we pay they'd send competent staff." Maya's hand stilled. She looked up, really looked at Victor Harrington's face. Something flickered in her memory. She'd seen him before. Not just in magazines, somewhere that mattered. 6 hours earlier, Maya's alarm screamed at 5 a.m. in her studio apartment. She silenced it and stared at the water-stained ceiling. Another day, another dollar short. The Georgetown law diploma hung beside her bathroom mirror, a daily reminder of the life she'd planned versus the one she'd lived. 3 years since graduation. 3 years of student loans crushing her like a slow-motion avalanche. She made instant coffee and checked her grandmother's medication schedule on the refrigerator. Eleanor Brooks needed round-the-clock memory care now. $2,400 monthly. Medicare covered some. The gap swallowed Maya whole. Her phone showed 3 job notifications. Morning shift at the grounds coffee house. Afternoon document review for a legal temp agency. Evening catering at the Harrington Gala. 18 hours of work stretched ahead like a prison sentence. Maya pulled on her coffeehouse uniform and studied her reflection. 28 years old, dark circles under brown eyes, natural hair pulled into a tight bun. She looked tired because she was tired. Bone deep, soul tired. Her grandmother used to say Maya had her father's eyes and her mother's stubborn chin. Both parents gone now. A car accident when she was 12. Eleanor raised her alone, working as a civil rights attorney until Alzheimer's stole her mind piece by piece. Maya grabbed her law school backpack, now repurposed for aprons and non-slip shoes. The embroidered scales of justice mocked her. She dreamed of courtrooms and closing arguments, of fighting for people who couldn't fight for themselves. Instead, she fought to make rent and keep her grandmother comfortable while the world forgot both of them existed. The bus to her first job wheezed to a stop outside her building. Maya climbed aboard with 24 other early morning warriors. They all wore the same expression, determination wrapped around desperation. By 6:00 p.m., when she arrived at the Meridian for the gala setup, her feet throbbed and her back ached. The event coordinator barely glanced at her. Table service. Section A, don't speak unless spoken to. Maya tied her apron and picked up a tray. Through the kitchen doors, she glimpsed the ballroom transformation. Flowers that cost more than her monthly salary. Ice sculptures sweating under spotlights, a chamber quartet tuning instruments. This was where power lived, where decisions affecting millions got made over appetizers. Maya was just there to pour the wine. Maya spent 20 minutes in the staff bathroom trying to salvage her wine-stained shirt. Cold water only spread the burgundy deeper into the fabric. Her hands shook as she scrubbed. The other servers whispered when she emerged. One girl offered a sympathetic smile. Most looked away. The event coordinator pulled her aside, annoyance sharp in her voice. Table 1 requested you be reassigned. Take your break early. Stay in the service corridor. Maya nodded, cheeks burning. She grabbed her phone and escaped through the kitchen to the marble corridor, where staff waited between courses. She leaned against the cool wall and closed her eyes. Victor Harrington's voice echoed in her memory. That contemptuous tone, the casual cruelty. She'd heard it before, then she heard it again, but real, not memory. Victor's voice drifted from the private lounge 20 feet away. The door stood half open. Relax, Gerald. The pension transfers are untraceable. My legal team buried everything. Maya froze. She recognized the second voice. Gerald Moss, Victor's CFO. She'd seen his photo in Forbes. What about the workers' lawsuit? Gerald asked. Victor laughed. They have no documentation. The original contracts disappeared when Brennan and Associates mysteriously lost their files. Convenient, wasn't it? Maya's heart stopped. Brennan and Associates, her old firm. She'd worked there during law school. Document processing, filing, grunt work. 3 years ago. You're certain the signatures can't be traced back? Gerald pressed. I authorized the transfers personally, but those documents don't exist anymore. Victor's voice dripped satisfaction. 2,000 workers lose their pensions, and my foundation receives a $50 million donation. Beautiful symmetry. Maya's breath caught. Her grandmother's pension had vanished 3 years ago. The same timing. The company blamed administrative errors. Eleanor lost everything except Social Security. What about the processing clerk? Gerald asked. The girl who filed the originals? Some law student. Nobody. She's probably serving coffee somewhere. Through the crack in the door, Maya saw Victor lift a leather briefcase. Gold initials gleamed. VH, the same briefcase she'd photographed documents beside during her filing shifts. Brennan and Associates required photographic logs of all confidential materials. Her mind raced. She'd processed hundreds of documents for Victor Harrington. Contracts, transfers, authorizations, all bearing his distinctive signature, a flourished V with an underlined H. The firm's servers crashed 6 months after she left. Technical malfunction, they'd claimed. Convenient timing. Victor checked his watch. I need to get back. Another hour of pretending to care about poor people. They laughed. The easy laughter of men who'd never missed a meal. Maya pressed herself against the wall as they passed. Victor didn't glance her way. Why would he? She was furniture, but she'd seen his face up close now, heard his confession, remembered his signature, and Eleanor had taught her one thing above all else. Documentation is power. Maya barely made it to the staff restroom before her hands started shaking. She gripped the sink edge, knuckles white against porcelain. Her reflection stared back. Wine-stained, hollow-eyed, invisible, Victor Harrington had stolen her grandmother's pension, not through bad luck or market collapse, through deliberate fraud. And he'd laughed about it while sipping champagne she'd poured. The humiliation in the ballroom suddenly felt like something more. The metaphor. Society's boot pressing down on her neck while people in cobalt blue suits applauded. She thought about Eleanor in the memory care facility. The proud woman who'd argued cases before federal judges now couldn't remember her own granddaughter's name half the time. That care cost money Maya didn't have because a billionaire decided he needed $50 million more. Rage burned in Maya's chest, hot and sharp. But beneath it, something colder settled. Recognition. She remembered processing Victor's documents at Brennan and Associates. The unusual transfer authorizations. The pension fund reallocations that seemed questionable, even to her untrained eye. She'd mentioned concerns to her supervisor once. He'd told her to just file the papers and mind her business. 6 months later, the servers crashed. All digital records destroyed. Paper files accidentally shredded during an office renovation. Maya had thought it was incompetence. Now she understood. Coordinated erasure. But Eleanor had trained her differently. Always keep copies, her grandmother used to say. The system protects the powerful. Documentation protects the truth. Maya's breathing slowed. Her hands steadied. She pulled out her phone and searched. Victor Harrington pension scandal. Dozens of articles appeared. Workers' lawsuit dismissed due to lack of evidence. Brennan and Associates settled quietly, without admitting wrongdoing. Case closed, except it wasn't. Because somewhere in Eleanor's obsessive filing system, the habit that survived even dementia, there might be copies. Her grandmother had kept duplicate records of everything from Maya's life. School papers, legal documents, work materials, including possibly the photographs Maya had taken of those contracts. The ones with Victor Harrington's signature, authorizing the theft of 2,000 pensions. Maya straightened, wiped her eyes. The wine stain across her chest no longer looked like shame. It looked like war paint. Maya arrived at Sunset Gardens Memory Care at 11:00 p.m. The night nurse buzzed her through with a tired smile. Eleanor sat in her room's armchair staring at nothing. She wore a lavender cardigan Maya had bought her last Christmas. Her hands, once powerful enough to slam gavels and sign injunctions, now trembled in her lap. "Hi, Grandma." Maya knelt beside the chair and took those fragile hands in hers. Eleanor's eyes focused slowly. "Do I know you, dear?" The question stabbed every time. "It's Maya, your granddaughter." "Oh," Eleanor smiled vaguely. "That's a pretty name." Maya swallowed her grief. She had work to do. "Grandma, do you remember your storage unit? The one where you kept your old case files?" Something flickered behind Eleanor's clouded gaze. For a moment, the brilliant attorney surfaced. "Documentation," she whispered. "Always document." "Yes, exactly." Maya squeezed her hands. "Where did you keep the key?" Eleanor's focus drifted again. She hummed something tuneless. Maya tried a different approach. She pulled out her phone and showed Eleanor a photo from 3 years ago. Maya in her Brennan and Associates ID badge, grinning on her first day. Eleanor's hand reached toward the screen. Her finger traced Maya's face. "My little lawyer," she murmured. "So proud." Tears burned Maya's eyes. "I need to find some papers from back then. Important papers. Did you keep copies like you always did?" "The box," Eleanor said suddenly, clearly. The blue box. V for victory. Maya's heart raced. "Where's the blue box, Grandma?" But Eleanor had drifted away again, back to whatever fog claimed her. She began humming again, an old civil rights protest song from the 60s. Maya kissed her grandmother's forehead. "Thank you. I love you." She left Eleanor with the night nurse and drove to the storage facility across town. Unit 247. She'd rented it 5 years ago when Eleanor's apartment had to be cleared. The unit smelled like cardboard and time. Boxes stacked floor to ceiling, each labeled in Eleanor's meticulous handwriting. Maya began searching with her phone's flashlight, legal briefs from the 70s, family photo albums, Maya's childhood art projects, her parents' death certificates. Then she saw it. A blue plastic file box pushed behind Christmas decorations. The label read, "Maya Work Materials, Brennan and Associates." Maya's hands shook as she lifted the lid. Inside, organized by date, were photo prints. Hundreds of them. Every document Maya had ever logged during her time at the firm. Eleanor must have printed them from Maya's phone backups. The obsessive preservation of a mind fighting to remember everything. Maya flipped through frantically. Corporate contracts, real estate transfers, mergers and acquisitions. Then she found the section marked V. Harrington Confidential, 43 pages of contracts. Each one authorized pension fund transfers from Harrington Industries to the Harrington Foundation. Each one signed with that distinctive flourished signature, each one dated 3 years ago, the exact period when 2,000 workers lost their retirement savings. Maya's breath came in short gasps. This was it. Proof, documentation, power. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Ms. Brooks, this is Victor Harrington's legal team. We'd like to discuss tonight's unfortunate incident. Please call at your earliest convenience. Maya stared at the message, then at the documents in her hands. They didn't know what she had. They thought she was just a humiliated waitress, someone to be paid off or threatened into silence. They had no idea she was Eleanor Brooks' granddaughter, and Eleanor had taught her to always keep receipts. Maya spread the documents across her apartment floor at 2 a.m., 43 pages, photographed in crystal clarity. Her younger self had been thorough. Each image showed the full contract header, signature block and date. She opened her laptop and pulled up the workers' lawsuit files, publicly available through court records. The plaintiffs had claimed Victor Harrington personally authorized pension fund diversions. They'd lost because they couldn't produce signed authorizations. Maya compared signatures. Victor's flourished V and underlined H appeared on every contract before her. Consistent, undeniable. She cross-referenced dates with pension payment records. The timeline matched perfectly. January 15, 2022. Harrington signed transfer authorization A47. January 31, 2022. First pension payments failed. The pattern repeated across months. Her legal training kicked in despite years of disuse. She opened a fresh document and began outlining the case. Elements of fraud, intent, misrepresentation, damages. Victor had all three. His own signature proved intent. The pension diversions proved misrepresentation. 2,000 ruined retirements proved damages. But Maya needed more than civil fraud. She needed criminal charges. Wire fraud required proof of interstate transfers. She zoomed in on the contract headers, there buried in the fine print. Funds to be transferred via federal wire system. Interstate commerce. Federal jurisdiction. Her heart pounded. This wasn't just a lawsuit. This was a federal case. She researched Victor's legal team. Brennan and Associates had represented him during the original lawsuit. The same firm that lost its records. The same firm that settled without admitting wrongdoing. Maya opened their settlement agreement. Standard confidentiality clause. Mutual release of claims. No admission of liability. But the settlement couldn't cover criminal charges, and it couldn't cover evidence the firm never knew existed. She photographed every page with her phone, then uploaded them to 3 separate cloud accounts. She made physical copies and mailed them to her own address via certified mail. Eleanor's lesson echoed, redundancy protects truth. At 4 a.m., Maya finally allowed herself to feel it. Not just rage or grief. Something sharper, purpose. She pulled up the state attorney's public contact form. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Once she submitted this, there was no going back. Victor Harrington had armies of lawyers. She had student loans and a storage unit full of memories. But she also had documentation. And she'd learned from the best. Maya began typing. Dear State Attorney's Office, I'm writing to report evidence of systematic pension fraud involving billionaire Victor Harrington. She attached the contract scans. 43 documents, 43 signed confessions. Her finger hesitated over the submit button. She thought about the wine stain on her shirt. Victor's contemptuous voice. Her grandmother's trembling hands. She thought about 2,000 workers who'd lost everything because one man wanted more. Maya clicked submit. The screen flashed. Your report has been received. A representative will contact you within 5-7 business days. She closed her laptop and lay back on her floor, surrounded by evidence and exhaustion. Dawn light crept through her window. Somewhere in a mansion she couldn't imagine, Victor Harrington slept peacefully, not for much longer. 5 days passed in silence. Maya checked her email obsessively. Nothing from the state attorney's office. She called twice. Both times, a board receptionist told her someone would follow up. On day 6, a response finally arrived. "Thank you for your submission. After review, we've determined insufficient grounds to pursue investigation at this time." Maya read the email 3 times, disbelief turning to fury. Insufficient grounds? She'd provided signed contracts, timeline correlations, federal wire fraud evidence. She called immediately. A junior attorney named Phillips took her call. "Ms. Brooks, I reviewed your submission personally," he said, voice professionally sympathetic. "The documents you provided lack chain of custody verification. We can't confirm their authenticity. They're photographs of original contracts, with Harrington's signature. Photographs you claim to have taken 3 years ago while employed at a firm that no longer maintains those records." Phillips sighed. "It's your word against a billionaire's legal team, so you won't even investigate?" Without corroborating evidence or witness testimony, any prosecution would fail. Mr. Harrington's attorneys would tear this apart. He paused. "Between you and me, this looks like retaliation. I heard about the gala incident." Maya's stomach dropped. "What?" "It's all over social media. Video of you spilling wine on Harrington went viral. Clumsy waitress ruins charity event. His PR team is spinning it hard." Maya pulled up Twitter. The top trending video showed her standing frozen, while Victor berated her. Comments ranged from mockery to slurs. Someone had found her LinkedIn profile and posted it. "Failed lawyer turned cocktail waitress." Her phone buzzed. "Unknown number." She answered, hands shaking. "Ms. Brooks, this is Jennifer Vance with Harrington Legal." The voice was crisp, female, dangerous. "We'd like to meet regarding the unfortunate misunderstanding at the gala." "There was no misunderstanding. Your client humiliated me. Mr. Harrington deeply regrets the incident. He'd like to make amends." Vance's tone suggested she'd made this call 100 times. "We're prepared to offer compensation for your distress." "I don't want his money. We're also prepared to assist with your grandmother's medical expenses. I understand Eleanor Brooks requires significant care." Maya's blood went cold. They'd researched her. "Knew where to press. Think about it, Ms. Brooks. We're offering to help. All we ask is that you sign a simple agreement acknowledging the incident was accidental, an NDA. A mutual understanding. You get financial security. Mr. Harrington gets closure." Vance's voice hardened slightly. "The alternative is less pleasant. Your allegations to the state attorney were noted. False accusations carry consequences. The threat hung in the air like poison." "I have until tomorrow to decide?" Maya asked quietly. "Actually, we need your answer by 6 p.m. today. Mr. Harrington is flying to Dubai tonight. He'd prefer to resolve this before departure." Of course he would. Distance and time to let the story die. Maya hung up and stared at her laptop. The contracts mocked her from the screen. All this evidence and nobody cared. The system protected its own. Victor would fly to Dubai. She'd stay here drowning unless she found another way. Maya sat in her apartment at 5:30 p.m., the NDA on her table. $50,000. 6 months of her grandmother's care. The chance to breathe. All she had to do was sign away the truth. Her phone showed 17 missed calls from Harrington Legal. The deadline loomed 30 minutes away. Maya picked up the pen. Her hand hovered over the signature line. She thought about Eleanor, confused and fading. About bills stacked on her counter. About survival. The pen touched paper. Then her door exploded with pounding. Maya jumped, dropping the pen. "Miss Brooks, open up, Harrington Security!" Terror flooded her. She looked through the peephole. 2 men in dark suits stood outside. One held a briefcase. The other had his hand near his waist. Weapon or wallet, she couldn't tell. "We know you're in there. Mr. Harrington sent us to collect the signed agreement." Maya's mind raced. They weren't supposed to come until she called. This was intimidation, pressure, making sure she signed. "I have until 6 p.m, she called through the door. "Mr. Harrington prefers to handle this now." "Open the door, Miss Brooks." Her laptop sat open on the table, contract photos still displayed. "If they saw those... I need a minute to read through the document. You've had all day." The voice turned harder. "Open the door or we'll assume you're refusing the agreement." Maya's hands shook. She looked at the NDA at her laptop. At the door, they'd sent Muscle to collect a signature. That meant Victor was scared. But of what? He'd gotten away with everything. The state attorney dismissed her. His PR team controlled the narrative, unless he knew she had something more. Something worth sending security guards to retrieve. Her laptop, the photographs, the evidence she'd submitted to the state attorney. Victor didn't know if she'd kept copies. He couldn't risk her having them. That's why the rushed timeline, the pressure, the threats disguised as generosity. He was scared. Maya grabbed her laptop and shoved it in her backpack. Grabbed the physical contracts, her phone, keys. The pounding intensified. "Last chance, Ms. Brooks." She looked at her apartment window. "Second floor. Fire escape accessible from the bedroom. I'm coming," she called. "Let me put on proper clothes." Maya ran to her bedroom and climbed through the window. The metal fire escape groaned under her weight. She descended as quietly as possible, backpack clutched to her chest. Behind her, she heard her apartment door crash open. Maya hit the alley running. She had no plan, no destination, just the certainty that Victor Harrington was afraid enough to send men to her home, which meant the documents mattered more than anyone had admitted. Her phone buzzed with a new message. "Unknown number. Running makes this worse. We just want to talk." Maya kept running. Maya spent the night in a 24-hour diner, nursing coffee and jumping at every customer who entered. Her phone showed 43 calls from Harrington Legal. She'd turned off location services, but paranoia crawled under her skin. At 6 a.m. she went to Sunset Gardens. Eleanor sat in the common room, humming that same protest song. "Hi, Grandma." Eleanor looked up. For once, recognition flickered immediately. "Maya Bird. You look tired." The old nickname made Maya's throat tight. "I am tired. Sit with me." Maya sat and took her grandmother's hand. The morning sun lit Eleanor's silver hair. She looked peaceful, unaware that her care hung in the balance of a decision Maya couldn't make. "I don't know what to do," Maya whispered. "I have proof that a bad man hurt people. Hurt you, but nobody will listen. And he's offering money to make me go away." Eleanor's grip tightened slightly. Her eyes cleared. One of those miraculous moments when dementia loosened its grip. "What would you do, Maya?" "I'm asking you, Grandma." "No." Eleanor's voice held traces of her old courtroom steel. "What would you do? Not what's easy, not what's safe. What's right?" Maya's eyes burned. "Fight. I'd fight." "Then why are you asking me?" "Because fighting meant losing everything. Meant risking the care Eleanor needed. Meant going against a system designed to crush people like her. But Eleanor had spent her life fighting that system. Had taught Maya that documentation was power, because the powerful always tried to erase evidence of their crimes. Maya pulled out her phone and showed Eleanor a photo of the contracts. "Do you remember these? You saved them for me." Eleanor squinted at the screen. "V for victory," she murmured. Then, crystal clear, "You keep fighting, baby girl. That's what we do. We document, we resist. We win." Her focus drifted again back into the fog. But she'd given Maya her answer. Maya kissed her grandmother's forehead and stood. The facility administrator waited by the door, concern on her face. "Ms. Brooks, we need to discuss this month's payment." "I'll have it," Maya said. "I promise." She didn't know how. But she knew she wouldn't get it by signing Victor Harrington's NDA. Maya left the facility and sat in her car. She pulled up the state attorney's email, the dismissal that had crushed her hope. Then she noticed something. Phillips had mentioned corroborating evidence and witness testimony. She had documents, What she needed was a witness who couldn't be dismissed. Someone with credibility and reach. Maya opened her laptop and searched. Investigative journalists, pension fraud. Maya found Marcus. Chen threw his byline on a ProPublica expose about corporate pension theft. His bio mentioned his father, a factory worker who'd lost his retirement in a Harrington Industries restructuring. She sent a careful email with 3 contract scans attached. Mr. Chen, my name is Maya Brooks. I believe I have evidence related to your father's case. His response came in 20 minutes. Coffee today, name the place. They met at a dingy cafe far from downtown. Marcus was mid-30s, sharp-eyed, wearing a rumpled blazer over a t-shirt. He spread Maya's documents across the table like a poker hand. Where did you get these? His voice was controlled, but his hands shook slightly. Maya explained everything. Brennan and Associates, her grandmother's documentation habits, the storage unit, Victor's confession at the gala, the state attorney's dismissal. Marcus listened without interrupting. When she finished, he pulled out his own laptop. I've been investigating Harrington for 2 years. My father worked 30 years at Harrington Industries. Lost everything overnight. His jaw tightened. He died 6 months later. Heart attack, the doctors said. I think it was a broken heart. He opened a file. I have testimony from 47 workers. I have financial analysts who'll confirm the pension funds were diverted. What I don't have is documentation proving Harrington personally authorized it. Until now. Until now. Marcus looked at her. You understand what you're up against. Harrington will destroy you. Character assassination, lawsuits, worse. He already sent men to my apartment. Marcus's eyes widened. Intimidation tactics. That's interesting. That's desperation. He started typing rapidly. Okay, here's what we do. I verify these signatures with forensic analysts. Cross-reference them with authenticated Harrington signatures from public filings. Build an airtight authentication case. The state attorney said chain of custody was the problem. The state attorney is afraid of Harrington's lawyers. The press isn't. Marcus grinned, and Maya saw the fighter beneath the journalist. We publish simultaneously with criminal referrals to federal prosecutors. Not state, federal. Wire fraud crosses state lines, which means FBI jurisdiction. Maya's legal training sparked. And federal prosecutors are elected less frequently. Less vulnerable to local pressure. Exactly. Plus, we go public first. Harrington can't bury this if it's already news. Marcus pulled up a calendar. His foundation board meets in 3 days. Annual meeting. All major donors present. Press allowed for the first hour. Maya's pulse quickened. You want to ambush him? I want to present evidence in a public forum before he can spin it, with forensic verification and witness testimony. Marcus met her eyes. But you have to be there. You have to present the documents yourself. Your story. Law student, grandmother's pension stolen, working as a waitress while holding evidence. That's the narrative that makes this national news. He'll recognize me. That's the point. The waitress he humiliated returns as the lawyer who destroys him. Marcus closed his laptop. Poetic justice. The media will eat it up. Maya thought about Eleanor's trembling hands. About 2,000 workers who'd lost everything. About Victor Harrington's contemptuous smile. Let's do it. They spent the next 3 days building the case. Marcus's forensic expert confirmed the signatures matched. His financial analysts traced the pension diversions. Maya practiced her presentation until she could recite it in her sleep. The night before the board meeting, Marcus sent her a suit from his deceased mother's closet. Ivory, perfectly tailored, professional armor. Maya hung it in her apartment and stared. Tomorrow she'd walk into Harrington Tower, face the man who'd stolen from her grandmother, present evidence that could send him to prison, or fail completely and lose everything. Her phone buzzed. Eleanor's facility. Your grandmother is asking for you. Maya drove to Sunset Gardens. Eleanor sat in her room, lucid and smiling. Big day tomorrow? Eleanor asked. How did you know? You have that look. The one your mother had before trial. Eleanor squeezed Maya's hand. You'll be magnificent. I'm terrified. Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. But remember, you have documentation. And documentation is power. Eleanor's eyes gleamed with her old fire. Make them see the truth, Maya Bird. That's all we can ever do. Maya hugged her grandmother and left before she started crying. Tomorrow, she'd either vindicate 2,000 stolen futures or become another cautionary tale about fighting power. Either way, she'd do it with Eleanor's lesson in her heart and Victor Harrington's signature in her hands. Harrington Tower's 43rd floor gleamed with wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city like a kingdom. The foundation board meeting drew 50 people. Donors, executives, and 5 journalists Marcus had personally invited. Maya arrived in Eleanor's ivory suit, her heart hammering against her ribs. Marcus squeezed her shoulder. You ready? No, perfect. Neither is he. Victor Harrington stood at the head of the conference table, resplendent in a charcoal suit. He was mid-speech about the Foundation's charitable work when Maya and Marcus entered. Victor's eyes swept past her, then snapped back. Recognition hit like lightning. Gentlemen, we have uninvited guests, he said smoothly. Security. Marcus Chen, ProPublica, Marcus announced. We're credentialed press. First hour is public access per your Foundation bylaws. Victor's jaw tightened. This is highly irregular. So is pension fraud. Marcus gestured to Maya. This is Maya Brooks, attorney at law. She has evidence relevant to your Foundation's funding sources. The room fell silent. Board members shifted uncomfortably. Maya stepped forward. Her hands shook, but her voice held steady. 3 years ago, I worked at Brennan & Associates processing confidential documents, including contracts signed by Victor Harrington, authorizing the transfer of $50 million from Harrington Industries pension funds to the Harrington Foundation. Victor's face drained of color. This is absurd. Those allegations were dismissed because you made the evidence disappear. Maya opened her laptop. Or thought you did. She projected the first contract onto the screen. Victor's signature filled the wall. Flourished V, underlined H gasps rippled through the room. That's a forgery, Victor said, but his voice cracked. Maya projected the second document. Then the third. 43 contracts materialized one by one, each bearing the same signature. I submitted these to a forensic document examiner. Maya displayed the analysis report. The signatures match exemplars from your authenticated public filings. Pressure patterns, stroke dynamics, pen speed, all consistent. A board member leaned forward. Victor, what is this? A witch hunt! Victor's composure shattered. This woman spilled wine on me at a gala. She's a disgruntled service worker seeking revenge. I'm a Georgetown law graduate whose grandmother lost her pension in your scheme. Maya's voice cut through the room. Eleanor Brooks worked as a civil rights attorney for 40 years. She taught me to document everything. So when I processed your contracts, I photographed them. She kept the copies. They survived your cover-up. Marcus stood. We have testimony from 47 workers who lost their pensions in the exact time frame these contracts showed transfers being authorized. We have financial analysts confirming the pension funds were diverted to the Foundation, and we have Mr. Harrington's own signature, proving he personally authorized it. This is entrapment, Victor shouted. Those documents are privileged. They're evidence of federal wire fraud, Maya said. The FBI has received copies this morning. Victor stumbled backward. His attorney leaned in, whispering frantically. A board member stood. I'm calling for an emergency vote to suspend Victor Harrington from all Foundation duties pending investigation. Seconded, another said immediately. This is my Foundation. Victor's voice rose to a roar. I built this. You can't. Mr. Harrington. Maya's voice was quiet but filled the room. You mocked me for being a waitress. You said people like me were incompetent. You laughed about stealing my grandmother's pension. She advanced one step. But I'm not just a waitress. I'm an attorney. And I documented everything. She projected the final image, a photo of Eleanor in her prime standing on courthouse steps after winning a civil rights case. This is Eleanor Brooks. My grandmother, the woman who taught me that justice requires patience, preparation, and proof. Maya's voice cracked. You stole her pension. You stole 2,000 pensions. You used that money to fund a foundation that pretends to help people. Tears streamed down Maya's face, but she didn't wipe them away. You're right that I spilled wine on you. But you're wrong about who I am. She held up the contracts. I'm the woman who kept receipts. And now everyone will see them. The room erupted, board members shouting, Victor's attorney pulling him toward the exit. Journalists typing furiously. Marcus grabbed Maya's hand. The FBI is waiting downstairs. They want to take your statement. Maya watched Victor Harrington flee his own foundation, his empire crumbling in real time. She thought about Eleanor's lesson. Documentation is power. And finally, after 3 years of carrying evidence in silence, Maya understood. Power didn't announce itself in boardrooms. Sometimes it waited tables, watched carefully, and remembered everything. 3 months later, Maya stood outside Sunset Gardens with a check that made her hands shake, not from fear, but relief. The workers' settlement had been approved. $20 million distributed among 2,000 victims. Eleanor's share covered 5 years of care. Maya walked into her grandmother's room. Eleanor sat by the window, sunlight illuminating her silver hair. She turned and smiled. Fully present today. There's my lawyer, Eleanor said warmly. Maya knelt beside her chair. The money came through, Grandma. You're taken care of. I was never worried. Eleanor cupped Maya's face. I knew you'd fight. You taught me how. No, baby. I taught you to document. You learned to fight all on your own. Eleanor's eyes gleamed with pride. What will you do now? Maya pulled out a business card, freshly printed, slightly bent. I'm opening my own practice. Employment law. Cases like this. People the system ignores. She'd rented a small office downtown, one room with a second-hand desk, and a determination that wouldn't quit. The settlement gave her enough to start without debt crushing her immediately. Your first client? Eleanor asked. A janitor. Tech company fired him after he reported safety violations. He has documentation. Maya smiled. I think we'll win. Outside Eleanor's window, the city stretched endlessly. Somewhere in that sprawl, Victor Harrington awaited trial on 14 federal counts. His foundation was dissolved. His board abandoned him. His name became synonymous with greed. Maya didn't feel victorious. She felt tired and determined and unfinished. Because for every Victor Harrington exposed, 100 more operated in shadows. For every pension restored, 1,000 remained stolen, but she'd learned something in that ballroom covered in wine. Invisibility could be strategy. Silence could be preparation. And sometimes the person everyone dismissed was actually the one taking notes. Maya wore Eleanor's old watch now, a gift from her grandmother's retirement that had briefly stopped ticking when the pension vanished. She'd had it repaired the day the settlement cleared. It kept perfect time. I'm proud of you, Eleanor whispered. Your parents would be too. Maya hugged her grandmother. I learned from the best. That evening, Maya sat in her new office. Her law degree hung on the wall, no longer mocking but promising. Her first case files spread across her desk. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. FBI arrested Brennan and Associates senior partner today. Your evidence led to a second investigation. You're changing things. Maya stared at the message, then at her reflection in the darkened window. She looked different now. Still tired, still fighting, but no longer invisible. She was Maya Brooks, Eleanor's granddaughter, Georgetown law graduate, and the woman who'd brought down a billionaire, with nothing but documentation and determination. Her first hearing was tomorrow. She wouldn't be late. Maya stood in Eleanor's room one last time before the trial. Her grandmother slept peacefully, the worry lines finally smoothed from her face. Security was guaranteed. "Dignity restored. I did it," Maya whispered. "I kept your promise." She thought about the journey, from law student to service worker to attorney, about the moment Victor Harrington spilled wine and laughed while power protected him. He'd made one mistake. He'd dismissed her. The powerful always dismissed people they considered beneath them. They never imagined the waitress was a lawyer, never thought the service worker kept copies, never believed the invisible could document everything. Maya had learned the most important lesson of all. The system protects the powerful until documentation proves otherwise. Then the system has no choice but to listen. She thought about the 2,000 workers whose pensions were restored, about her grandmother sleeping without fear, about the janitor whose case she'd win tomorrow because he'd kept safety reports the company thought were destroyed. Justice wasn't loud. It wasn't immediate. It was patient and prepared. It was a law student photographing contracts nobody thought mattered, a grandmother printing backups nobody knew existed, a waitress listening to confessions nobody imagined she'd remember. Maya looked out at the city, millions of people fighting invisible battles. Some would win, some would lose. But all of them deserved someone who believed them enough to document, to fight, to refuse silence. Eleanor stirred and whispered without waking. "Documentation is power." Maya smiled and kissed her forehead. "Yes, Grandma, it is." She left Sunset Gardens as sunset painted the sky gold and ruby red. The colors reminded her of wine stains and wine glasses, of humiliation transformed into vindication. Victor Harrington had taught her one final lesson, though he'd never meant to. The people you dismiss today might be the ones who define your tomorrow. Maya Brooks walked into the evening light, Eleanor's watch ticking on her wrist, 43 contracts in her briefcase, and justice waiting in a courtroom that would finally listen because she'd kept receipts. And receipts, she'd learned, were revolution.